expect that going
powers and principalities.
There's so much fire inside me.
Tragedy struck when part of the largest hillside at the kosher rubbish dump collapsed.
It's going to be fun to see how he goes about approaching this game.
I have 4 recommendations to the President and to the MPP government, and I'm glad that the Deputy Minister responsible for finance is here, Honorable John Kuma. Colleagues, we invited the government so that they can be part of this and to move the country forward. And it's important that we move our country forward. The fact that you are in a position today doesn't mean you will not be in government tomorrow. But for us, to all of us understand that this policy dialogue is for the better and not for the worse. So, colleague, honorable member, MP, and the Deputy Minister, we want to urge that the Akufo-Addo Bawumia government must be bold to tell the Ghanaian public the truth. That the Ghanaian economy has been driven into the ditch and will require an urgent fiscal measure to pull out from the ditch. We expect the Akufo-Addo Bawumia government to seek an urgent debt relief from the International Monetary Fund through the newly proposed debt relief initiative known as the Common Framework for Debt Treatment beyond the Debt Service Suspension Initiative, DSSI, which can be likened to HIPIC, similar to HIPIC, and it's important the government do that. We will also submit that failure by the Akufo-Addo Bawumia government to do so, as recommended, will mean that within 18 months from today, Ghana would be exposed to a high risk of default on its debt service obligation, which will plunge this country into a deeper economic crisis. Honorable members, we also wish to recommend to the Akufo-Addo Bawumia government that they should not wait until disaster strikes and we default on our debt service obligation before taking the necessary action, as this would weaken our position to negotiate favorably. Honorable members, I'm saying 18 months for a reason. 18 months from now will mean we'll be in January, February 2023. At that point, we will know the economic indicators as at December 2022. Evidence points to the fact that if the status quo remains the same, Ghana's public debt will be 85% of GDP. The issues that we are talking about will deteriorate. Ghana will not be attractive to the bond market. We will not be attractive to the domestic market. The cost of paying our debt, even with term loans, will deteriorate. We use a chunk of our tax revenue to repay our debt. And this will not be good for our country. And so we are urging that, Mr. President, we mean well. We are lawmakers. We are constituents. We are representative of the people. We have constituency to carry. If Ghana crashes, it doesn't crash with only you. It crashes with all of us. We are an important political party. We've ruled this country so many times, and so we care about the people of Ghana. Please don't drive this country to a level that we cannot negotiate favorably. Solve the problem now, and we'll help you in solving the problem. God bless our homeland, Ghana. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now beyond debate, based on the data presented, that the Akufo-Addo Bawumia government has completely mismanaged our economy and have lost control of the economic indices. Political considerations are preventing the Akufo-Addo Bawumia government from taking vital decisions. The people of Ghana need to ask the questions, right questions, and elicit candid disclosures, actions from the Akufo-Addo Bawumia government that will prevent imminent disaster. We urge the government to demonstrate seriousness in resolving some of these challenges by announcing convincing measures in the media review. And Honorable John, that's the message from the minority to the minister responsible for finance. We expect some convincing measures in the media review. Thank you very much, and God bless our homeland, Ghana. Thank you.
The Honorable Atu Forson, the General Secretary of the party, may along the line take leave of us whilst we continue. My duty at this point is a simple one, but before I proceed to undertake that activity, two observations: that the minority is demanding a comprehensive audit of all COVID-related expenditure in the country, including and adding on to the 21 billion that was spent prior to the elections. On wage increases, I've been Minister for Employment, and as the Honorable Atu Forson observed, 4% wage increase when inflation is at 8%. Consistent, the policy is to increase wages. Public sector workers deserve better. And therefore, we expect in the mid-year review at least some 2% adjustment further for Ghanaian workers. Anybody who listened very well to the Honorable Atu Forson will go home understanding why this morning Nana Addo Dankwa woke up to one prayer and hope. Debt relieved and debt forgiveness is his only hope to redeem and salvage this economy. On that note, Honorable Sohene, you may introduce the discussants. I thank you all, and Atu Forson will thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Leader. So we've listened to the eloquent presentation of facts and data from Honorable Dr. Atu Forson. I'm sure you could tell from the presentation that this is a blend of experience coupled with some book knowledge and some home, grown wisdom. Please, another round of applause for the ranking member on finance leading the discussion today. Ladies and gentlemen, maybe just to warm us up a bit, the Honorable Minority Leader started something that I thought is beautiful for us all to re-echo. So he talked about the major policies of this government and how they have all collapsed. It got me listing a few. Fiscal deficit stabilization, double-digit GDP growth, one district, one factory, one village, one dam, 1 million per constituency, Zongo planting for food and jobs. So, Akufo-Addo Bawumia government. All right, so unfortunately, General Mosquito, the General Secretary of the NDC, have had to take an early leave. We were expecting to get some few comments from him, but he has an equally important program that he has to be at this point. But he has left his back very well, because we still have a number of distinguished party leaders who are with us here. And once again, I also acknowledge the presence of the Deputy Minister of Finance, John Kuma. Thank you very much for coming. Please, a round of applause for him. And to help us do the discussion, I will need some, maybe 2 or 3 chairs here. We have, please, and when I introduce them, you will join me with a round of applause to welcome them. Dr. Saint Kutu is Senior Lecturer, University of Ghana Business School. Please, a round of applause for him. You can join us here. Yes, Dr. Saint Kutu is a Senior Lecturer, University of Ghana Business School. We also have Dr. Lord Mensah. Another round of applause for Dr. Lord Mensah. He's also Senior Lecturer, University of Ghana Business School. And we once again want to thank you all for joining us. We have media practitioners. We have some invited guests, including reporters, editors, and some popular show hosts in our midst. Please, if you are here, you can just wave. We are happy that you could make time to join us. A round of applause for them. We also have some representation from civil society organization. As and when I get the full list of those who are here, I will appropriately acknowledge your presence. Thank you very much for coming. From the academia, you can already tell from our discussants that we have a very, very good representation. We also have some business owners and students as well. I mean, this presentation can actually be used by lecturers to examine their students. I'm very sure that the students are going to be richer in knowledge after this presentation. Honorable John Jinapor, Abdullah Jinapor, is also here, one of our discussants. Please join us, and perhaps he will now take over from me to lead the conversation around the presentation that has been done by the ranking member. Please, Honorable John Abdullah Jinapor, the stage is now yours with Dr. Saint and Dr. Lord Mensah. Please, over to you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Senior Leader, fellow MPs. Doctor, nice meeting you. It's been a while. I think that the ranking member has done a fantastic job. He's put the issues within the right perspective. And so this should stimulate some level of intellectual discourse as far as management of the economy is concerned. There's been an attempt, like he said, to heap everything on HIPIC, but based on on COVID, but based on the evidence presented, it is quite obvious that the full picture is not being presented. Because if you read the budgets and look at the reports from the Bank of Ghana, the Ghana Statistical Service, clearly by the end of 2016, we're on the right trajectory, because we had moved from about 2.2 to about 3.6%. And the doctors will tell you that, especially when you are doing a time series analysis, there's always a lag. You can't just say that what happened in 2016 is attributable to only 2016, or what happened in 2017 is attributable to only policies within 2017. When the government presented a budget in March, it then tells you that clearly a lot of the programs, policies, and activities of 2016 led on to the results we saw in 2017. So 2017, you then witnessing about 7% of growth rate. Very, very robust. But that began to decline by 2019. And so you could not see that level of sustainability in terms of that growth trajectory or growth trajectory. But more importantly, it's about what you get as a government. Because your output is a function of the input. And if you look at the Eurobond, for instance, the ranking member talked about almost a little over 13 billion. 70% of that 13 billion is attributable to President Akufo-Addo and Dr. Bawumia. Right from President Kufuor, Atta Mills, John Mahama, this administration alone accounts for more than 70% of the over 13 billion borrowed from the Eurobond. This government within 4 years got about 20 billion from petroleum revenues, as against just about 6 billion compared to President Mahama in terms of cedis. This government, energy sector levies, they've gotten over 12 billion. Not just that, when we were leaving power, and I refer you to paragraph 36 of the 2017 budget, where the minister himself confirms that President Mahama bequeathed a cash amount of 234 million cedis sitting in the accounts. That is what this government had. 3 oil fields. The Tuabu gas processing plant was a game changer. And like I said, we are not against borrowing. But when you borrow, invest in critical expenditure. The Tuabu gas processing plant gives us a net savings of $350 million per annum in terms of crude oil import substitution. More than 50% of our domestic gas today comes from the Tuabu gas processing plant. We did not get all these revenues. And yet we build the Ridge Hospital, we build the Legon Hospital, we build the whole airport, we build the Tamale Airport. Several projects, visible projects that you can see that helps in capital accumulation. Because if you're growing an economy and you don't grow the capital base, it means that you are not anchoring the economy. And so the slightest shock that you get, you see what we are witnessing today. But just to cap it, I just want to take you with some 2019 figures so that we see the real situation pre-COVID. The manufacturing sector, which was growing at 13%, by 2019 reduced by 52% to 6%. And the manufacturing sector is the base. If the manufacturing sector is growing, it means that we employ more people, especially when government is talking about 1D, 1F. You want to see the manufacturing sector growing. And yet it declined by 52%. The water and sanitation sector, which was 8.2, declined to 1.3% in 2019. The agriculture sector, which was growing at 4.8 in 2018, declined to 4.6 in 2019. The financial sector, which was growing at around 12.5% between 2014 and 2016, declined to 6.6% in 2019. The mining sector, which had reached 30% in 2017, declined to 12.6%, representing a reduction of 60%. But treasury bills went up, and when treasury bills go up, it means that government is borrowing more. When government borrows more, it leads to a crowding out of the private sector. So if you look at our debt construct now, a chunk of it, of about 80%, is attributable to domestic financing. But because government borrowing is virtually risk-free, because they can print money, they would always borrow domestically. But when they go international, it's always a problem. So the private sector is reducing and reducing and reducing. But all this, like Dr. Bawumia said, is the exchange rate, because then you are comparing yourselves with others. In 2019, the cedi depreciated by about 13% compared to the dollar. The highest in 4 years. The highest is never happened. Then, that is before COVID, 2019. Then the famous issue of COVID, like the ranking member said, when you are faced with a situation of COVID, you have to manage your expenditure. The World Bank puts our deficit at 16.2%, and this was as at April 15, 2021. 16.2% of a deficit means that you must go and borrow the money. It means that you have spent what you do not have in terms of the money. When you borrow to finance that year's deficit, it goes to hit your debt, which then raises your debt to GDP. That's why we are going above 80% as it stands. But like the ranking also said, the contingent liability is also important. This is what government is presenting. Sino-Hydro, we are making the claim that it's not part of government debt. And yet government of Ghana will be servicing the debt. Because the bauxite that Dr. Bawumia talked about, more than 4 years today, no action, nothing is moving. Just last month, with leader, we looked at Get Fund. We virtually amortized all their inflows. NHIS, we virtually amortized all their inflows. GNPC is struggling. So not just what is sitting on the books at the national level, but the contingent liability we can easily crystallize into our debt is a major issue for us to look at. In winding up, I have some few suggestions for government, and I think that government should look at these suggestions. The first is to cut down on frivolous expenditure. The frivolous expenditure is just too much. The other issue is that the taxes are too much, and government should hold and put a freeze on the taxes. This year alone, we are witnessing 10 different taxes. then I think that the borrowing should be managed. We also have to reprioritize how we invest, and invest in the critical sectors of the economy that would bring about growth. The other one has to do with the reviews. Anytime this government says it's reviewing something, it eventually leads to losses. They reviewed Ameri, they reviewed PDS, they brought Ajapa, and so I think that the reviews, there should be an end to those reviews. Ladies and gentlemen, these are the few comments I have in respect of what the ranking member presented. Finally, the minimum wage. I'm surprised that Labour can agree a 4% increment in minimum wage. When your inflation is 9%, it means that your purchasing power is drastically reduced. These are issues that we of the minority would continue to engage, would continue to discuss the issues, and ensure that we make progress as a nation. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much, honorable members, for such an opportunity to discuss this important, paper, for which I will call it the anatomy of our debt profile in the past years. But then, Honorable Atto, I think you've done very well. I mean, when it comes to the hard numbers that were presented, I was happy with the direction, and the graphs that were presented, and it took me back to basic economics, which seemed to tell us that there was a memory loss. There was a memory loss because if you look at all the graph, let me borrow your slogan: we were here, we ended up here. We were here, we are almost there. We were here, we are almost there. That should tell you that there was a certain memory before HIPIC. And if all the indicators are pointing to those numbers, you should know that, of course, we are heading towards a disaster. And I was happy with those trajectories. And in economics, one of the assumptions that nobody should forget, I'm happy with the exercise that we are doing here. One day you'll be in government and effectively managing the economy. You should understand that there's something we call stationarity in all economic indicators. And that stationarity literally means that history will repeat itself. And that is why I started my submission by saying that there was a memory loss. And that memory, we should go back to cast us before HIPIC, which administration took us to HIPIC, and in the end, how are we heading towards? Maybe stringently, if you look at the numbers before HIPIC, you will get to understand that, yes, maybe a debt service ratio of about 70% to GDP might not be too much as we speak when you look at the numbers, because we've been there before. So if you look at the history, which is repeating itself, it should give you the signal that in the end, we are heading towards a disaster. So whoever takes over this country must manage this country very well for the ordinary Ghanaian. Now, I picked up some few things which I think, for academic purposes, I need to highlight. And going forward, it should be able to help us when we are doing presentations of that nature. This is academic environment. We have to place in the academic undertone. It's not purely political. Now, there's a soft side of your presentation which did not come out clear, which I'll be happy to have that soft side. Now, there are reasons for borrowing. Now, if you look at our history, you realize that since 2007, that we went to the Eurobond market, clearly every subsequent borrowing that we do seems to give the signal that we are borrowing to defray existing debt. Now, my question to the entire presentation that you did is that what proportion, because you see the prospectus, that we are going to defray existing debt, and then the rest of the money will be invested in what? CapEx. So the question is, what proportion of this money got into this country? And what is the corresponding CapEx, what is the infrastructure that we see in relation to this monies that got into this country? I did not see that part of the analysis. I think going forward, if you push that forward, you will make a very good case for some of us who sit in the academia, our consumption. Another last thing that I think, which for me, I'm happy Honorable John Kuma is here, will be the contingent liabilities, which will be my last comment on this presentation. You know, contingent liability from the presentation indicate that it has been excluded from our debt. Now, how sure are you of the payment of that contingent liability? With the history that we have with our SOEs, most of them, you know, diving into debts over time. So how would you exclude this contingent liability from our debt portfolio when we have a history of, you know, SOEs falling into debt? So effectively, we cannot exclude it. It should be part of what? Our debt portfolio, for us to paint a true picture of our economy. So when it comes to stringent measures to be put in place for Ghanaians to what? Bear that brunt of what? Those, you know, measures, we are ready for it. The second one is, I think, you know, when it comes to economic management, you cannot dissociate it completely from politics, because the politician is the policy maker, and the policy maker will drive the economic dynamics. So effectively, we need to understand that whatever, you know, decision we take obviously has a tendency of, you know, affecting, you know, the future generations. Now, this debt that we are carrying forward, moving the debt forward every now and then, how ready are we as we, the current generation, to sacrifice to ensure that this debt comes down? When I talk about sacrifice, I mean expenditure control. Basically, expenditure control. And I'm happy Honorable John Jinapor indicated that, you know, we must spend wisely, spend in prioritized areas, spend in revenue-tied, you know, projects, so that we can easily generate whatever, you know, comes in. Thank you very much for your time.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Lord Mensah. Yes, so we'll hear from Dr. Saint Kututu.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. And Dr. Forsen, this is the first time that a public figure, after a presentation, has presented himself for public scrutiny. In fact, it's commendable. Yeah, it is. The picture you painted, it's quite dark, I must confess. And it's important also for us to, as my colleague said, disassociate the monies that we borrow to service legacy debt or spillover debt, and the ones that are used for projects by particular government. Take the zero coupon bond, for instance. It's going to mature in March 2024. So whichever government comes into power, the next couple of months you have to borrow to pay that money. So the question is, when you borrow, are you going to add on to the debt profile, or you're going to dissociate it from the money that is already borrowed? Because the government will borrow more, and they use some to service some of the debt. So I'm particularly happy when you used the debt to total revenue generated, because that at least gives us a very good picture of where we stand. But I would like to push the envelope further. Now, why don't we also look at the cash that we make available for debt service over the total debt? Because that will show us how governments, successive governments, have been paying the debt. Okay. And then to our Honorable Deputy Minister, you know, the only way we can break this debt cycle is to increase the tax base. You know, we've been saying this every now and then, but it seems we are unable to do it, because other than that, we'll continue to grapple with this high debt level. And I will suggest that if, for instance, you don't lack the capacity, why don't you follow on academia? Because they have innovative ways of helping the government to increase the tax revenue by increasing the tax base. Because the current regime, those in the formal sector, pay whatever that is levied on the informal sector through higher prices. So please, call on academia. Thank you so much.
Indeed, it's been a wonderful presentation and assessment. And I think we must understand that what is happening now is in character of the NDC. Even as we are confident in our wisdom and our knowledge, we are still humble enough to subject our thoughts to, peer review. That is the nature of the NDC. We are not braggarts. We are not boastful of our knowledge, and we do not think we know it all, even though we believe that what we know is good enough for this country. But we are humble enough to still open ourselves up for scrutiny and for discussion. So we are reminded that this is the policy dialogue series anchored by the minority NDC in Parliament. And we are going to have a number of these series in the coming days that will be led by ranking members of the various committees. Today is on finance, obviously, because the mid-year review will be later this week. But other ranking members, as indicated by the minority leader, are to hold themselves in readiness for similar outings. Honorable Dr. Atuforsen, maybe your wrapping up comments based on the reviews you have received before we pick contributions. Thank you very much.
Okay, just to respond to the discussant, Mr. Chairman, very important questions has been raised. I mean, typical coming from Dr. Lord Mensah. The presentation I did was 43 pages. In fact, I have, this is an abridged version. I have the bigger one, which is 120 pages. And I'm going to publish it as soon as we are done with this. At that point, we have, what I seek to do is to segregate in the past how the Eurobond has been used. And sitting in Parliament, this information are always presented to us. So you know how much is going to A and how much is going to B. So I've done that, but for the purposes of this discussion, else I will end up spending about 3 hours, and most people, I would have lost them, and that is why I did not do that. You raised a very important point on contingent liability to my brother, John. Let me say that because of the way Government of Ghana reports on our debt, we have never included contingent liability in the public debt. I mean, no government has ever done that. What we have done is that we include the contingent liabilities in the debt sustainability analysis. So if you are to look at the DSA, you see contingent liabilities that will fall due in future and all of that for risk management purposes. So those are in the DSA. DSAs are often done by the World Bank, working with the IMF. I'm aware that since 2019, the last one was just done last week. And it was just done by the IMF during the Article 4 engagement. And I know the IMF went to their board last week. So I expect that today being Monday, the IMF should issue their the debt sustainability analysis. I hope that Parliament very soon will have our budget office and we can conduct our own in-house debt sustainability analysis. Finally, the issues raised by Dr. Saint, a senior lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School. Yes, you made mention of the fact that zero coupon bond, for instance, is going to be due the next couple of years ahead of us. How do you repay? Under the NDC, we instituted what we call the sinking fund. The sinking fund intends to accumulate some revenue so that in future, when things of this nature fall due, we can always fall back. We have a fallback position, so we can use the sinking fund to that. In fact, if you go back, Kwame Nkrumah was charged for Dr. Kwame Nkrumah when he decided to go ahead with the Akosombo Dam and Temahabo. He established sinking fund, and he used the very sinking fund to fund it. And that is why my former boss and my mentor, the Honorable Setepe, has always insisted that efficient and prudent debt management mechanism, you will need to establish a sinking fund. So I want to urge the minister responsible for finance now to always add sinking fund to some of their debt analysis going forward. And to conclude, I also want to thank you for accepting. Oftentimes when you come before politicians. If you are not careful, they victimize you. So most people are afraid to subject themselves to be associated with politicians. But you see, this is not a political function per se. This is an important dialogue for the economy of Ghana. And so we expect no one to be victimized. We are going to move from campus to campus. We are going to engage the academia, civil society groups. We'll do our presentation and subject ourselves to scrutiny. We invite the sector ministers so that they will come and then let them be understanding that we are helping in building this country. No one is standing aside. We want to build this country together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And indeed, we are live across the country on a number of media platforms: Wazo TV, GH1 TV, Metro TV, Joy News. We are on Power 97.9 FM, on Accra FM 100.5. We are also on Ahoto FM and on Class FM. And we are also on a number of social media handles, official NDCGH, NDC Communications Bureau, and other such handles. We are grateful that you are all joining us virtually this afternoon. We are wrapping up now, and so we'll open the discussion to other interested participants here. If you have any question or contribution to make, we just limit it to 5, because as parliamentarians, we have equally important schedules awaiting us in Parliament today. I can see Asepa. Is that Thompson? Yes, so please, there's a microphone there. You can come forward. I can see the Deputy Minister taking notes. He was just being told by our former Deputy Minister, Honorable Ricketts, that this is a platform to talk, and he as Deputy Minister is to do. So he should take the notes and go to the ministry and work with his minister to do it. But we are very happy that you are here. But if there are other contributions, please, 5, minimum, maximum 5, because we have to leave. Thompson, please, go straight to the point.
Thank you very much. Honorable Atufos, and just some brief questions. You made a very brilliant presentation. The picture you created is a very gloomy one, but I still think there is more. The first one is on the public debt. I wanted to know if you have taken a critical look at the debt sitting on the book of SOEs as well. If we have taken a critical look at that as well. We remember under your administration, you gave clearance for some institutions to borrow on the back of their balance sheet and to execute some key projects. Considering the fact that we have not seen any relevant or any monumental project in the last 4 years, is it that these SOEs did not have the same opportunity to borrow on the back of their balance sheet to execute projects, or they borrow the money and the monies are nowhere to be found? The second issue has to do with the debt to tax ratio, which we talked about. And here, I was thinking if you could have used the nominal figures to help us a bit more, because we realized that the tax revenue from 2012 to 2016 is not the same as the tax revenue from 2016 to 2020. There have been introduction of new taxes. There have been upwards adjustment of taxes that were labeled as nuisance taxes. And so there's been a huge increase in tax revenue. And so if we would have had those nominal indicators, that could also have helped. And final one, on your conclusion, the recommendation, I was expecting to hear specific policies which you have put in place, and whether you have modeled out these policies in the current economic framework to arrive at an expected outcome by 2028, which is supposed to be the end of your administration if you take power in 2024. Have you modeled these economic policies out? What outcome did you get? Because we've seen the trajectory. All those things that you mentioned, the indicators keep going up. So does it mean that it's going to stop? What are the specific policies which your government, if you take power today, you're going to institute? And how have you modeled those policies out
to arrive at a desirable outcome which will be favorable and move the economy forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Answer Thompson, with Alliance for Social Equity and Public Accountability, ASEPA. Yes, yes, I can see a hand up there. Please, let's be quick about it. Let's be quick about it. If you are interested in speaking, maybe you can follow. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, please. Okay, that's Lantam from GH1.
Thank you very much. My question would be from the layman's perspective. The Honorable Ranking Member did a very detailed presentation painting the picture of what our current situation as a country is. And in opposition, I guess that you would want to describe yourself as a government in waiting, and so you are the alternative. And so my simple question is, given the period that we looked at in the presentation and all the things that have been done to get our debt levels to this point, what would an NDC government have done differently from what this government has done so that we do not get to that point? And then the second question is, we're being made to the government. I think the third one was going to a certain IMF program. I mean, I stand corrected, but I know that we've been to the IMF before, and it became a subject of controversy where, you know, this government said it was a bad policy and it put a lot of restrictions on various sectors of the government. There wasn't government employment, and there was an embargo and all of that. So in view of that, if we go to the IMF a second time, you know, what is it likely to present to us? What challenge is it likely to present to us? And as a country, given our current situation, COVID and all of that, would we really be able to go through that process again? So these are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Lantam. Yes, my lady, if you could introduce yourself.
Good afternoon. My name is Victoria Bekodanso from Home Based Television.
Victoria.
My question is also very simple. With all these things that we've listened to today, what I want to know is there any hope for this seemingly steep decline that Ghana seems to be heading towards? And should the NDC government come to power, what are some of the things you have put in place to arrest the situation? Thank you.
Thank you, Victoria. Yes, madam. Last one, hopefully.
Please, Reverend Professor Grace Nkansa Asante from the Department of Economics, KNUST. I have two issues. The first one is to Honorable Atto. He gave other indicators for assessing the how sustainable the debt is. But for all you may know, what I know is we measure debt sustainability by the GDP. So bringing in other variables, which at the end of the day is computed into the GDP calculation, makes me wonder that kind of analysis. Because even if you look at the World Bank, which is responsible for looking at growth of nations, they use the GDP ratio to measure the debt GDP ratio, how sustainable the debts are. My second issue is, if you look at our economy from the time of President Nkrumah, any government adds up to the debts, and that's what we've been having. My issue is, if you are looking at the servicing, you don't come and service the debts that you have accumulated. You service all the debts that all the various governments have accumulated. So, I don't know. I can't really fizzle it out if you are looking at the servicing of the debts of becoming so alarming. We are all not happy about the way the country is going. But blaming one government, I want to be objective, I don't really get it. Because I'm sure some of the debt servicing is coming from even the time of President Kufuor, and then pass up. No government comes with.
Yes, please continue.
That is why I explained that the indicators are all captured when you are computing your GDP.
Right.
So that is where I have the problem. But if you are looking at the servicing, no government comes and services its own debts. So it's a replicate kind of, a cumulative kind of. So I was expecting that maybe this policy dialogue would bring out some policies that we were coming to make input, or I don't know, maybe you have it for another time. That's why maybe you invited the academia to come in.
Right.
So, because we all know where the country, the direction, we don't like it. So I was expecting that we may have some policies that we may like the academia to make some inputs, so that we all see how we'll be able to resolve the problem for the country to be on its feet. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to Reverend Asante for your contribution. Yes, okay, you use this one.
Let me start with the lady from the Department of Economics, University of Science and Technology, Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. Colleagues and Madam, first of all, let me say that there are various ways in assessing government's ability to pay, what we call debt sustainability. The standard one that worldwide governments subscribe to is what I presented. The IMF, the World Bank, and various governmental institutions, multilateral institutions, uses debt sustainability analysis as I've provided. So these are not my templates. They are templates by Bretton Woods institutions. They are templates that every Ministry of Finance does. They are templates that every government in this universe uses. So they are not my templates. For the purposes of academic, if I may, you can try and Google me. I've just written a paper that was published recently, about a year ago, by the West Africa Monetary Institute. In fact, I was paid some $500 for that. And I use neoclassical model to assess Ghana's public debt to find, and that is academic paper, so I have to use what is known by academics. And clearly, if I present that to you and I will share that document with you, you will know that Ghana's debt is on unsustainable path. And what I did at that paper, you will notice that I use primary balance to do the analysis. And clearly, primary balance as a function, you clearly know that Ghana's public debt is not sustainable. So it points to the fact, no matter how you look at it. Unfortunately, debt to GDP has been overflogged. And people think the only way to assess Ghana's debt sustainability is Ghana's public debt expressed as a percentage to GDP. That is wrong. That, I beg to say, is wrong. When you do that, you are tackling yourself in any way and thinking that you are doing well. Because as I said, you don't use your GDP to pay your debt. And it is wrong for you to compare Ghana's debt to GDP to that of, let's say, Germany or England or another country, because the ability to pay is not the same. And that is why you use others. So I will also take your number and send your email and send you that of the IMF recently debt sustainability analysis. You will see that every single thing that I've mentioned here is there. So I did not skip even one. I did all of them. So you know what debt sustainability is. Then, again, you made mention of every government paying debt. Yes, every government paid debt. Under John Mahama, he paid debt from President Mahama, President Mills, and President Kufuor. So I did not exclude that of other government under when I was doing President Mahama. In fact, when I was doing President Kufuor, I included the debt that were accumulated by President Rawlings. And that is why I could track it, that during the time, tax revenue of S amount could service that debt. And that is why I could track that under President Mahama, all the debt since Adam, we were servicing it based on that. So it is not only President Akufo-Addo that is servicing other government debt. But the difficulty is, remember, the very tax revenue that President Akufo-Addo is also getting were very tax policies that were put in together or placed together by other governments. So it's also benefiting from that. So what we want to see is that, is the situation deteriorating or is getting better? And certainly the situation is deteriorating. Meanwhile, you are collecting that same revenue, adding more revenue. We used not to have oil under Jerry Rawlings. We're not having oil under President Kufuor. We had oil under with one well under President Mahama. Now we have 3 wells. So you want to put the revenues also in perspective. And that's why you see that. And then finally, you raised a major issue of as to whether you thought we were going to come out with a policy that we will discuss. Colleague, let me say that anytime you find yourself in a ditch, the first thing you do is to stop digging. The first thing you do is to stop digging. We are in a ditch now. Our first proposal is for government to seek a major redress, to stop digging. Okay, so after stopping digging, then we can be on the table to make some suggestions. What we will seek to do, and that will feed into the question, what we will seek to do differently when we are in office is to reverse this trajectory of borrowing for consumption. Is to encourage state-owned enterprises to have sound balance sheet and for them to borrow on their balance sheet. For them to be able to engage in major projects such as Terminal 3. For them to engage in major projects such as Temaport, Takrade, Atuabo, and all of that. So we want to change the dynamics, change the way the direction of policy is going. And then finally, from layman's perspective, I heard someone say that we are going to the IMF for the second time and what it will mean. I'm sorry to say that we are not going to IMF for the second time. In fact, President Kufuor's HIPIC and MDRI was IMF. Achampong took us to IMF. We have been to IMF so many times. President Mills, there was an IMF. So most government has taken us to IMF. What we are asking for is simple. If we fail to heed to advice and fail not to sign on to the new debt relief framework post DSSI, there's a disaster. And we have to do that immediately. If we fail to do that, I'm sorry, the situation will be different. And then to conclude on that, it is better we bury our pride and go to IMF and have our problems resolved than for us to get into a situation that the economic situation will get bad. To the extent that when we go to the IMF at that time, we'll be in a position of Greece. When they went to the fund, it was too late for them. Please, let's do it now. That is our suggestion, and we'll expect them to answer some questions. Thank you.
All right. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I wish we could continue, but we have another assignment in Parliament, and we all have to be there right now, and so we will have to wrap up the event. But I don't think it will be fair not to get a word from the Deputy Minister, John Kuma. If you can just do that under 1 minute for us, please, because you took a lot of notes, and we expect that you will go and discuss with the Minister for Finance and get it implemented. So if we could just get the microphone for the Minister. Okay, so please, you use this. I'll wrap up with that one.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ranking, Honorable Leaders of Parliament and media, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. I bring you greetings from the Minister of Finance, Honorable Ken Ofori-Atta, who asked me to represent him today. I'm here. Today is not a debate. It's your day. I'm not here to pour sand in your gari. I'm here to commend you for this program and for the courage to even invite us to come and listen to you. I have taken the necessary notes, and I shall report accordingly to my boss, the Honorable Ken Ofori-Atta. But I can assure you, for all the issues that you have raised, you are going to have good answers on Thursday when the mid-year budget review is presented to the country. Very, very good news. But for the gloomy picture, just two things to remind us that today, as we speak, Ghana has hit the highest in history of our cocoa production. So the economy is on track. Another good news. No, today is not a debate, so I'm not going to debate. Just trying to repair the gloomy picture that we are doing very, very well. Look, the global ratings for literacy came out only a few days ago. Ghana has moved from 37% to 65.5%. And our regional average is 33.3%. So there's a lot of good news in the air. The economy is on track. At the right time, we'll do all the debate. Thank you very, very much.
All right, thank you very much, Honorable John Kuma. Yes, so sometimes it's not that we don't get revenue. Like cocoa, that's a lot of revenue, but it is what it is used for that we are discussing here. And trust me, I mean, the Honorable Minority Leader made reference to the Auditor General's report. I think we must pay attention to it, because in the presentation, you would have realized that Honorable Atuforsen talked about capital expenditure and how it picked up a little during the election year. Look, in one audit report, you will find out that the Ministry of Agric actually overpaid contractors in 2020 to provide warehouses. Now, warehouses is capital expenditure. Now, in an election year, they actually overpaid them to provide warehouses, and according to the audit, when they went to the field, the warehouses were not there. But it will be captured as capital expenditure going up. But the expenditure, the expenditure result itself is not on the ground. So it's not about maybe Cocoa bringing us revenue. It's what we use the revenue for that we are discussing. But I thank you very much, Honorable John Kumar. I thank you all, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, for coming. The Minority Chief Whip will give us the closing prayer. We didn't have an opening prayer because we all prayed from home as people of faith and came here. But we have to thank God for a successful event and pray that He leads us back to Parliament. Honourable Leader, thank you.
Thank you very much, colleagues. We should all be reminded that, colleagues, let's be reminded that we are supposed to be in the chamber at least 10 minutes before 2 o'clock. And you can see that unless we really go maybe in a convoy, that will be impossible, but we have to. So, colleagues, we are reminding you, but we have to thank all of you, especially our invited guests. And it is most likely our next series may be on KNUST campus, and where we'll get the opportunity to talk more about the agric, the cocoa, when we take on agric, your food, planting for food and jobs, and all the associated problems. So our next series is most likely to be agric, and we have chosen to be on the campuses to move away from the Parliament, the intimidating environment, so that at least academia like you will be freely able to criticize or critique whatever we do. So we thank you sincerely for coming. To give the closing prayer, can we be in the prayer mode? Ya Allah, we thank you for today. We thank you for all you've done for us. We thank you for the start, and we thank you for the end of this program. As we leave our various destinations, we pray that you take all of us safely back to our destination. With this, I say, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahman Al-Malik Yawmuddin, إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين.
Amen. Thank you very much. Dr. Ampofo, thank you very much for coming through. We acknowledge your presence. We are also grateful for your presence, Dr. Saint Kutu, Senior Lecturer, UGBS, and Dr. Lord Mensa. Thank you for making the discussion worthwhile.
Defender Hassim Musa has been trending after scoring 2 own goals in his side Inter-Allies game against Ashanti Gold at the Lenkley Sports Stadium. His conduct has generated a lot of talk, whilst people think that he should be punished for putting up such an unprofessional behavior. What do you also think? Share it with me on this show as I get some interesting answers from other football fans around. My name is Joel Lishen, and welcome to today's episode of the GhanaWeb Fridays debate right here on GhanaWeb TV. So have you heard about the match fixing scandal and allegation going on being speculated in the Ghana Premier League?
Yes, I've heard about it.
And what do you make about these allegations?
Well, to me, the word seems right. It's still allegations until it is proven to be correct. So let's wait for their investigations to end so that we know, because at this point it's still allegations. It has not been finalized, so we don't know the truth yet.
But did you see the goals between Inter-Allies and then Ashanti Gold on social media?
Yes, the 7 yes.
Does it tell you something that something like that was going on?
Oh no, I thought it was what's the name? The final stages of the Ghana Premier League. So I mean, people are relaxed and people also want to rejuvenate themselves. So I didn't really think it was a fixed match at first until I heard the allegations.
Yeah, but 2 players scored. 1 player scored 2 own goals, and after the game, he confessed that yes, something like that. He heard something like that was going on. That is why he scored those 2 goals to make sure that it doesn't come on. First of all, do you agree with his approach, or you think you could have choose another alternative?
Okay, it was 5-0 at first.
Yeah.
And then the player came on to score 2 own goals.
Yeah.
And then in his submission, he was saying that he had that it was supposed to be 5-1. In the first place, why should he even score the first one and think about scoring the second one? This is just basic common sense analysis. You came on, it was 5-0. You could have maintained the 5-0 to the end. No one would have heard about you. But then you came on, then you scored the first one, and then you scored the second one to come and prove that you are a miracle saver.
So if you were in his shoe, what would you have done different?
Simple. I wouldn't have scored the goal in the first place. The first goal I wouldn't even have attempted to score the goal in the first place.
Yes. Should he be punished?
Exactly, he should be punished because if you heard it was the bet going on was 5-1. It was 5-0. We came. We are a defender. We could have sustained it and not even score. He's the one who scored. If it was another player who scored for it to be 5-1, I would have understood that okay, he was going to ruin the bet. But then you are the same person who scored and you are the same person saving. So we should see you as a savior or what? No, you should be punished.
So this season's Ghana Premier League, what was your best moment?
Oh, well, my best moment was the game between Hearts and Asante Kotoko. I mean the second leg. Yes, that was my best game, and then going away with just a goal or something. I mean, something that made the match tough. So because one goal is like you're waiting for a changeover. There will be a changeover. There won't, that kind of thing. So it was a tough match, and I enjoyed it. So that was my best moment.
Okay, now last week Sunday, the game between Ashanti Gold and Interlight. Did you see the videos that were flying all over social media?
Yeah, I didn't watch the match, but social media got me covered. I saw videos of 7-0 defeat, yes, and stories around it. Yeah.
When you saw those goals, what came in mind? What was going through your mind about the goals and the manner in which they were scored?
It was clearly something planned. You see the goalkeeper grabbing the ball and giving it back to the striker, grabbing it and dropping it into his own net. It was clear that it's a fixed match, and it speaks ill of the integrity of Ghana football. I watched it and I realized now we have a long way to go as a football federation. We have a long way to go. So Kurt should sit up and look into issues rather than that we wouldn't go forward in our football journey.
Okay, now the player who scored the 2 own goals has come out to say that it was a deliberate attempt from him because he heard there was an arrangement for the game to be 5-1. Hassim, first of all, do you support what he did?
I don't. The reason being that no matter what, you don't have to disgrace your own self. If there is anyone outside looking for a defender to employ, I don't think they will come for a defender who will score himself. So you are, and as much as you want to get the game or the planned sport, you are spoiling your own career. So I don't side with him on scoring himself, but in all, it was a deliberate attempt to squash the betting issue, and I think he did what he thought was right. And
so he shouldn't be punished.
From his interview I listened to, he mentioned that I was rather commended for doing that. So if they agree that it is right for him to have scored the bet, I think it's
no. I'm talking about the GFA. Should the GFA punish him?
No, the GFA shouldn't punish him because he is working in a way to avoid such bad doings. So in as much as his means were wrong, he did the right thing by avoiding or getting rid of the bad doings in there.
What should be done to internalize an Ashanti Gold if indeed the GFA is able to establish that it was a fixed match?
I think they should both be relegated.
Interlions have already been
relegated. Yes. So Ashanti Gold should join them. So I bring one of the best teams, one of the 3 teams that were relegated, to join the
other
next season. Yes.
Do you believe that there is match fixing in Ghana football?
Yes, there is. Per the commentaries we've all seen on social media and the TV stations, I think there is. It's just unfortunate. It's happening after this country went through what it went through some years ago with Contingent Liabilities. I thought, as a country and as a sports federation, we could learn something from it. It's just that it went the other way again.
So we saw the videos going around with the Interlions and the Ashanti Gold game. What do you make about that particular? Did that game confirm your suspicion about betting and match fixing in Ghana football?
You know what? It's rather unfortunate, and it's very appalling when some of us saw the videos. Some of us actually thought it was one of their training matches, let alone to come to realize that it was a Ghana Premier League fixture. When you look closely to what happened, it tells you that there is nothing being competition about this our league, because fans who travel all the way from Accra to say the northern region, or say to the broader Afro region, just to go watch a GPA match, and at the end you are watching an artificial match. I think if fans go through that and even get to the point of getting accidents, it's in vain, because it's nothing has been sustained from that. So I think my thought on match fixing in this country was verified. Should I say verified or confirmed with that match? It's not unfortunate. It's not good.
Now the defender Hasim, after the game, said that he did score those own goals intentionally because of what he heard before the game. To him, it was supposed to be 5-1. Ashanti Gold will score 5 goals, and then 2-3 minutes or so to the end of the game, they will score an own goal for it to be 5-1. He came on and decided to score 2 own goals to make sure that their plans couldn't materialize. What do you think should be done to Hasim? And first of all, if you were in his shoes, would you have done the same thing or probably gone for a different option?
You know what? For a player, for a Ghana Premier League player to do such a thing with the excuse that he had a conversation between some people that their club officials had fixed the match. You know, if you're a player and something like that comes, or you by chance you hear such thing, you just cannot choose any way, because there are a lot more polite ways of solving issues like this. There's a possibility that you could record it. Yes, probably he will come with an excuse that he didn't have a recorder or something. But already there's been some sports journalists like Sadiq Obama, who has reported to the GFA for more than 2 or 3 times that there's been match fixing in our GPL league.
But nothing was done about it.
But nothing was done about it. So I think to some extent the player has a point. He said he had it and that was the only way he could do it. It's what it seemed like Ash Gold. And I've already, as I said earlier on, there's been commentaries about Ash Gold that they've been involved in a lot of scandals like this. So I think it's very bad. Just last 2 weeks, we all saw what the BBC was doing for Ghana Premier League after Charles Bisiu's
scored
that screamer. So if it happens that just after a week, then we are witnessing things like this, then it's very bad for a country like Ghana.
What should be done to Hasim? Should the GFA reward him, or he should be punished?
I think the GFA has not done a lot for the first place when it comes to the Ghana Premier League. Why am I saying this? You know, when a league like this, I mean a league like the Ghana Premier League is ongoing and you don't put some things in check, these are some of the things that happens. You know, there's no sponsor for the Premier League. That is the only way. And you know, there is club now go through challenges of taking care of players now. So I think probably that is the only way they could resolve to. Now they will fix match, they will bet 10,000 on it, get times something of it, and they will pay their players. Yeah, they have a point. But as I was saying, the Premier League board or the Ghana Premier League Association has not been working so hard to curb things like this. And I think that is the reason why these things are happening. So I decided not to talk about what they should do to him, but the GFA already has rules and regulations that governs things like this. So they should just go by the books and the laws of the country, and everything will be okay. That is simple.
In Talas and Ashanti Gold, what punishment should be I think the GFA is able to establish that.
Very good. Yes, I know very well that the what we call the GFA already has set a committee which are probably started an investigation. Yesterday I heard there's been a travel ban on the two teams. I think this scandal is not only about these two teams. There are lots more teams in the Ghana Premier League, or even the Division 1 or the Division 2, who are already also in this thing. So I think there should be a long investigations. They should go very deep in it, even if it calls for Accra folks title trophy to be called off. I think I'm in support of it. If we are all in support of Ghana, Ghana should win, and not some few group of people. So I think if it happens that way, Juventus went through the same thing. They were relegated into whatever they call it, the CRB. So if a team like Ash Gold already internalized, they're doing very good. So I think if there's any other lower level they should go there. Ash Gold should be banned, and they should go through the worst punishment to serve as a deterrent to the other teams. I for one person thought the Premier League this very year was very competitive, looking at teams like the Asante Kotoko and the Heart of Oak pulling all 6 cylinders to show to their fans. And this was the first time in many years where taxi drivers and tractor drivers were dripping their what do you call it, their cars and their buses with flags of these two giants. I think it was just an infora. This was something that was telling us that Premier League was going to be very successful in the coming years. But if it happens that this comes just out of nowhere, I think they should go through the worst punishments. And I'm so disappointed in a club like Ashanti Gold. Although I have friends who are playing there, like Akoto. They should go through the worst punishment, and they should serve as a deterrent. Yeah.
I'll say I didn't follow the match, but I think when the issue broke out on social media, I accessed it on Twitter, and I think I saw people's comments, and I saw a video of how it was done. And personally, I feel it's very bad. It's wrong in the first course. I mean, this I think selecting a new GFA president after the whole expose and the effort trying to bring the league back to how it was. And I mean, we've had a great season where my team, Accra of Oak, obviously have done well in terms of taking the cup. So everybody was on a high, like very happy with how things have turned out. The referee, even though that wasn't the best, but generally people were a bit optimistic. But this was a low blow in terms of what's happened, and I feel like some serious punishment needs to be handed down for the two teams to serve as a discipline moving forward. For all you know, this has been happening and we don't know about it. But luckily, we got to find out that this happened. So I think some punishment must be done to serve as a discipline for others.
Yeah. So some people are saying that if Hassim has not scored those 2 goals, nobody would have known that something like that was going on. So some people are saying that the defender who scored the 2 own goals should be punished. Should not be punished, but he should be rewarded. What do you also think?
You can't do this in the, let's use the best league in the world. Premier stand. Let's take Bundesliga. Let's take that of the French league and everything. A professional player should behave like a professional player. You can't tell me someone like Eden Hazard, somebody like Newman will do this kind of thing. It doesn't happen. You understand? So if you decide to reward a player for that kind of act, it speaks largely about the kind of league we have here. I think he should be given like half of the season. He should be banned for half of the season to serve as a discipline. You understand? So that you learn his lesson. After that, the club pays a fine. He himself pays a fine. So that others get to know that this is wrong. Because up there, how does this paint Ghana to the international market? So he should be given like half a season ban then you should be made to pay a fine. The club, the coaches, each and everybody should pay a fine.
So this season's Ghana Premier League, what do you make about its integrity?
Okay, there are so many issues that have been raised with this just ended GPL. For instance, the Ashanti Gold versus the Interlight game, for example. I think it's high time FIFA even step in to come and investigate the GPL that we are playing here in this country, because betting in football is one thing FIFA frowns on it. So if we have been able to diagnose some of these symptoms in our league, then it means that there is genuinely evidence that something is really going on in our league. And betting is not a good thing that will help us bring back the love that we want to bring back.
Okay, now the player in question, Hassim, he said that when they were doing the warm-up, he heard that the game will be 5-1. Then he comes on and it's 5-0, and he decided to, in his own words, I wanted to score the bet. So I scored 2 own goals. First of all, what should we do to Hassim?
Okay, I think in my opinion, what the player did is very good, because he's one of a player that does not agree or condone to betting in sports. So I think he set the example for others to follow. For me, I think GFA would commend that player.
Wouldn't it also be possible that he himself had his own score in his pocket? So let me score 2 own goals and go for 7-0.
Okay, that's another thought. But for me, I think that he said that he heard from his voter that the scoreline will be 5-1. So genuinely, he had that score in his mind. So when he came on, he tried to let that bet not stick. So he came to score that goal. So I don't think he had his own bet in his mind. No, I don't.
So
think
if I were the GFA president, you reward him?
Oh yes, I would have rewarded him as if I was the GFA president.
And the entire Ashanti Gold and entire team, what punishment do you think if the investigations are finalized and they are culpable? So
for me, I think if they are found guilty, I think Ashanti Gold should be relegated.
Only Ashanti Gold?
Yeah, because definitely Interlight has already been relegated, so Ashanti Gold should follow suit. So that one of the best 3 that were relegated.
It will be a Buson Dogs.
Good. Should replace Ashanti Gold.
In terms of positives, I think when the 2 giant clubs decided to raise their tempo, you could see that the league, none of them could catch up, and I think that's what many of their fans have been talking about over and over again. That look, it's just yours for the taking. Just raise up your tempo, and just when Accra folk decided to become the Accra folk of old that everybody knows, they were just too difficult to catch up with. And I think that's one positive. Another positive definitely will be coverage. Not necessarily it was the best, but now people have had the opportunity to even see the players play. I mean, many years ago you wouldn't get to know who Augustine Boache is, you wouldn't get to know how good Razak is. I mean, so now that the media have, not necessarily all the media, but Star Times are doing a good job with, broadcasting it, and Ghanaian journalists are also doing a good job in actually publicizing it. And I think it's one positive thing that everybody, that's going to help the brand image of the Ghana football.
Okay, and then negative. What do you hear that thing? No. This way beyond.
2 things that actually did strike me in this season. The first one being the hooliganism, and the hooliganism actually costed Ebusia Dwarfs to be relegated. Look, at that high level of football, you don't make room for such acts. It will go against you. And I think that's one of the reasons they were relegated, because 3 precious points against Lagos Cities, it's something else. And
they lost 6 in total.
Yeah, and look, at that high level too, you shouldn't be condoning some things like what happened against Inter-Allies and Ashgold. It was even for the player to come out and say that he deliberately did it. I think it's madness at this higher level. Look, we want to promote Ghana football, and in promoting Ghana football, it means we are promoting good football, where every club is equal, every club has the opportunity to play football, score goals by themselves. You don't need to match fixed games. And it's wrong. I think Inter-Allies should be banned. I think Ashgold should be banned. They should be properly dealt with. If not, it's a big shame to the Ghana Premier League.
Okay, let me ask you this. There's been other school of thought, Nana Drew, Safo, and others who think that, look, the player had minutes to the game that a fixed match will be played today. It's 5-0. Ashanti Gold were defending that they wanted to score an own goal. So I come on and I decided to score 2 own goals and to quash it off. People think that he should be rewarded for taking the bold step, because if not for the 2 own goals, it wouldn't even have come out that something like that was going on or something like that was going to happen.
I mean, that leads to the point I was saying that, look, regardless what was planned, okay, at that highest level of football, you shouldn't even be fixing matches. It shouldn't even come to your mind that these things should be, encouraged. It shouldn't be so. Whether the player, I mean, to say the player should be commended for whatever he did, I mean, that's their internal business, but on the external level...
So people were talking about the GFA, like the GFA should reward him.
No, the GFA in itself cannot say we are rewarding that. I mean, again, they will be like, we are rewarding mediocrity.
Because people say that he has exposed what went on.
That is what I'm trying to say. That even at the highest level of football, these things should not be encouraged. And to say that the player should be rewarded, I mean, that should be the decision of the GF. And I do not want to tell the GF what to reward or what not to reward. But the main issue is that such acts should not be encouraged in Ghana football. It is wrong. It shouldn't be accepted in our football. It shouldn't be accepted in football here. It shouldn't be accepted in football on the African continent. It's not acceptable anywhere. Juventus did it. They were relegated. Look, it's like saying that, look, you value the money and the monetary aspects of the game than what the fans will actually feel. And time and again, we constantly say that football is about the fans. Football is about the fans. So you do not take the fans for granted by doing things that will favor you monetary for your own pockets. No, that's selfish. You don't do that.
All right, last one. Does it put any dent on House of Oaks title? Because some people are saying if they go into this, it might come out that this thing happened throughout the entire season.
Look, this isn't something that even needs to be spoken about. Myself, I'm a journalist. For a majority part of the first leg of games, I was at every Accra Sofo game. Every home game, I was there. You see the quality of football that Accra Sofo play. You see the way things are. You saw the dip in form. You saw when Costa Papage went, when they struggled a bit. You saw when Samuel Boydu came, they struggled a bit. Look, this does not exhibit any signs of match fixing. If it was actually match fixing, look, Accra Sofo could have won the league by 10 points because they have the money. You get it? So, and if they have the money, they will buy games upon games. Accra Sofo won their games per my point of view and where I sat in the media stands every now and then watching their games. You could clearly see that they were hungry, they desired to win the league again. Because look, for a club as big as Accra Sofo, it's been so long, since 2009.
Yeah, over a decade.
And time and again, people were constantly on their neck, Accra Sofo. And this is something that should tell, like they took upon, like, look, we are going to win this time. And big up to Samuel Boydu, he was fantastic. He came in, implanted his own system, decided that they play. Even from the beginning when they weren't going as planned, he still stuck to it. And the boys delivered. It wasn't as clean as perhaps he would have wanted to win all the games. But when they picked up his tempo, they learnt his system. It was beautiful. And again, they even lost some games. So you cannot contend that. They won the league clearly.
All right, so you're still watching the Friday's debate right here on GhanaWeb TV. This week, we're asking what you think should be done to Asim Musa of Inter for scoring 2 own goals against Ashanti Gold. We've already spoken to some football fans who think that he should be punished. Others think that he should be rewarded for exposing that rot that was about to happen in the game. Good afternoon and thanks for joining me here.
Yeah, good afternoon. My name is Nanaya and I really appreciate your
All right, you've heard about this whole conspiracy thing about the game involving Inter-Allies and then Ashanti Gold. With the defender scoring, what came in mind when you saw those videos and read these stories that a defender has intentionally scored 2 own goals and he had admitted to have done that?
Actually, I don't know, but first of all, after seeing such videos, I was confused. I was a little bit confused, and I was really waiting for a communique or a press release from GFA. And they actually did that. By reading, we're still waiting for them because they've not stated what they're going to do to him. And you mentioning rewarding this, I'm not sure he should just be rewarded. Fine, he might be rewarded for exposing this, but he should be dealt with. Because if you know it's a bad thing, why didn't you go in to do it?
No, he said when they were walking, like when they were coming from the dugout to the pitch, that was when he heard the Ashanti Gold players discussing it. Oh, are you guys aware and all that?
Yeah, fine. If they are aware, if you're gonna expose something like this, why don't you then go straight to the point and expose it, rather than you making a deliberate, I don't know if it's cloud chasing or something.
He wanted to make a statement.
So probably you can find a better way or a better source to make this exposed, rather than you being on the pitch. Because people are watching the match. What do you want me to think as a fan of Inter Allies? Or what do you want me to think as a fan of Ashanti Gold? That, hey, he has scored himself. Should I know what's going on there? I'm not supposed to know that because I'm not part of you. So you should find a better way. Probably you can grant an interview after the program or after the match, and that's going to be better. Because I was really watching the match and I was a little bit confused that what's going on there? Is Ghana even serious? So I was looking forward to the release from GFE, and they did that. So I believe they should punish him. Because he's actually played with the emotions of people at home. Yeah. He's actually played with the emotions of people at home. And football can take people to different levels. Many a times people watch football matches and collapse. So what do you expect, or what do you think is going to happen to the fan out there watching? You get what I mean?
In Thailand and Ashanti Gold, if the GFE is able to conclude the investigations that indeed something like that was about to happen, what should be done?
Between both teams, I think probably, I wouldn't say court, but they should be really dealt with.
Any punishment, any specific
Any punishment.
Powers and principalities.
There's so much fire inside me.
Tragedy struck when part of the largest hillside at the kosher rubbish dump collapsed.
It's going to be fun to see how he goes about approaching this game.